Hello, Rachel. Thank you for including your work. Looking really good so far. So I was reading your writing, and this all makes sense. And you know what? I tend to go through this. I tend to go through these before, even back in the sketch stage. I tend to go through these before I read anything, just to see if I'm following. And I think that's a really good kind of an acid test. Is it working? And I think for the most part yours is. But I've got a few recommendations I think are going to make pretty good sense. So let's go ahead and take a look. So the guy's going hiking, right? And there's a bear sign. Um, that's great. That's really a fantastic opening scene. Fantastic. Um, so we come to the second scene. He's set up his campground and he's roasting his marshmallows, and all is well, right? Then we go to the third frame where he hears the rustling in the bushes, gets a little nervous, turns around to see there's a bear in the bushes, freaks out. Good continuation of the exclamation point. That's outstanding. Good connection there. The bear is in the woods, I mean, in the bush. So then we jump to the next frame, which he's in his tent. Um, and then we see him looking out of the tent at the bear. The bear is getting ready to, apparently, to kind of steal his food and do whatever bears do, right? What danger, danger. So he reaches in, or he gets the idea. So right, well, I'll get to that in a second. So right here, he's reaching for the pan. He gets the idea, reaching for the pan. Then he's banging the pan. Bear runs away, and he's happy again. Right now, a couple of recommendations. Okay, so I think that right now, I think the main issue is that everything is about the same size. So there's no really interesting emphasis. A really interesting way to provide engagement in a narrative, especially a visual narrative, is to kind of create emphasis points. And how do we do that? At this point, I think you should be saying, in your own mind, you should be saying, well, we can do that by scale, and that's what we need to do. I think alternating, or not alternating, but making, varying the scale of individual um, illustrations within a composition is going to add emphasis to those illustrations. For example, this could be big. This could be a big face where he's going, oh no, and that emphasizes that point. Okay, that's the transitional point of the narrative where the antagonist is introduced. So we can, that's a real bonus. We can really enlarge that right there and still have him having his reaction to the rustling in the bush, but he's doing so and it's being emphasized, right? So what I want you to do is kind of think about where we can put emphasis points and maybe stress those emphasis via scale. Okay. Another thing I think is that the images are connected with the bear's claws, but the bear claws are really, really big. As a matter of fact, they're big and they're dark. And I think that they draw too much attention. They really do. The first thing I started looking at was the sets of bear claws. One recommendation would be this: is to reduce the size of the bear claws. Not much; they still have to be recognizable. Reduce them a little bit, and maybe make them brown, the color of the bear, as opposed to black. And maybe that's going to reduce the black. That black just kind of advances in the composition, so we're immediately drawn to those. And I think that's compromised hierarchy. So let's think about that. See how it works for you. Okay, great first frame. As I said, maybe that could be a larger frame since that's such a great setup. One of the things I want to is maybe think about the relationship of the individual illustrations to the background themselves, or the background itself. So there's a couple of different. Here's a neat technique right here. Just this kind of background element here. That's really interesting, and we see that in another area. This is really interesting. And the shapes here are indicating danger. And of course, the horn indicates danger. So this is really done well. And this one is configured in a spiral. So that's a really interesting composition as well. So maybe think about the way that your illustrations behave in their background. Okay, a couple of recommendations on the narrative itself. So that's a great opener right there, right? And so is this. Second frame is great. My recommendation is to take that bush somehow and incorporate it in this scene. That way, we know that we're still looking at the same thing. There's no jump in thought there, right? So that continuation will reinforce the fact that this rustling is in this setting. Okay, now this frame right here is confusing. And the reason I say that is because as we see, his eyes are kind of pointed in this direction instead of up here. Well, he should be looking at that bush, right? That should be scaring him. And then again, I think we're going to increase the size there of the scale of that illustration there. So then we come over here, and again, This is a good illustration, but we don't know if this is a separate illustration, and that's based on proximity. I think this character is too far from the bush in both instances here. I think he should be a little closer to the bush, or he should be looking at the bush here. Here, he should be looking at the bear, and the bear should be looking at him, creating a connection between the two and completing that frame of thought right there, okay? Then right here, it gets a little confusing because we go from this kind of, oh no, there's a bear, to him inside his tent. Can we show a frame of him running towards the tent? Okay, then instead of showing him in the tent, we show him running towards the tent, and then maybe the next frame is this, where he's looking out the tent at the bear, all right? Then he gets the aha moment. So right here, this is a great way to depict the moment, but that's just lacking in contrast. I didn't even see this until maybe the third time I looked at the composition. So let's make that a little bit more obvious right there. Then we have the more trails. Now, at this point, again, another confusing frame because these two frames are connected, right? And that's cool. So right now, let's further connect these frames. So he's beating on the pan, right? But he's looking in this direction. He's looking up here, and the bear is looking down here. So there's no connection here between him and the bear. He should be looking at the bear should be looking at him. But other than that, this is good scale. Nice job here. And then the final frame is the bear's presumably gone. But instead of him just going to sleep, because that's introducing a whole new aspect, instead of him going to sleep, let's go back to the frame or a variation of the frame with him enjoying his roasted marshmallows, and maybe only in this frame we could have the pan turned upside down and right next to him, so that he's at the ready if this happens again. Okay, so I hope my comments make sense. I know I took a long time here, but I think this thing has so much potential. Really great job in some areas. I think right now, to a very high degree, it should be obvious that to take an average illustration and turn it into a great illustration, we have to employ shadow and highlight, elements of shadow and highlight. You've done a good job starting, but I want you to reinforce that as much as you can. And don't forget, back in welcome to, remember our color week, week 3? There's some amazing tutorials. There's 2 videos here, and then there's half a dozen additional videos here for tutorials on lighting techniques. And then here's some more stuff too. So there's a bunch of resources in that color lesson week 3, but this is the announcement. Welcome to week 3. Okay, great start. Very good. If you have any questions, please let me know. If I can make anything more specifically clear, please let me know again. And really fantastic job. So keep up the hard work. And this is our final checkpoint. This is due Sunday. So if you want to run anything if you want to run anything by me between now and then, have at it, right? All right. Okay, excellent job, Rachel. Thank you very much.